Okay. Welcome back to Comic Book History, episode 65. This one we're just discussing the third volume of Avengers, which is 84 issues. And the thing with this volume is, it had 3 writers, and you're probably thinking, like, one, that kind of makes sense because of what type of writer he is. The other one's quite shocking, the fact he worked on this book. And the other guy, just as shocking. The first guy who wrote this book was Kurt Busick. Yes, Kurt Busick, who did the first 55 issues and did all 3 annuals for Avengers during his period of time. Yes, this volume produced 3 annuals, coming from 1998 to 2000. Yeah, this was quite interesting. Now, the first annual itself was typical for 1998. If you look at like any annual coming out, it's almost like a team-up annual. That's input what the annuals were. Team-up annual. It's like, it's the concept of Marvel Team and basically made a theme for annuals. With that one, they were teamed up with a Squadron Supreme to help them go back to the universe. But the very first story arc that Kurt Busiek did for the book was that, the Avengers are back. Let's bring in like almost every single person to be an Avenger. And then have them basically do a medieval setting because apparently... because... Morgan Le Fay is here. Yeah, she's here for the opening few issues of this run. And, like, it's a very interesting 3-parter. Thing ends basically her being defeated and then Ral being restored. And then Beast asks the most interesting question. He basically has the same question that he did at the end of Giant Size X-Men #1. What are we going to do with 39 Avengers? Yeah, he said the same exact line. So, they decided on a 8-person lineup because this mount is, like, so big. So, pretty much, who they keep is not quite shocking, to say the least. Because the 8-person team is simply put, the first 6 people most of the first 6 people, they keep, get this, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Giant Man, Wasp, Vision, Scarlet Witch, with a couple of reserve members being... Justice and Firestar, who were a couple. Now, during this run, at least Kurt Busiek remembered the fact they were a couple. Yeah, he remembered the fact they were a couple. So, they even briefly got engaged, and they attempted to have the wedding. And then was called off. There's a couple of reasons why in book, I've heard the reason why. Like, in book, they say, they were too young. Or, apparently her powers gave her breast cancer. Or the fact she couldn't have children. It's quite confusing. Why in the world the wedding did not go through, I have no idea because I wasn't reading at that point. If I ever asked Kurt Busiek exactly why in the world this wedding did not go through, he might have an answer because here's the thing. Like, Raphael's relationship fell apart. These two left the team and they went back to Warriors, hang out with them occasionally. Firestar in later years, they briefly retired and then she came out of retirement. They joined like Young Allies, and then eventually she joined the X-Men in 2013 for the all-new Amazing X-Men series. But in the case of Justice himself, he ended up hooking up with Ultra Girl, which I believe he's still with her this very day. I'm not sure. But that's the most recent thing for him anyways. Oh yeah, he was also part of Cradle for the stupid Outlaw event. Oh yeah, and the thing was that Hawkeye was going to be considered a member of the team, but he ended up joining Thunderbolts instead. Yeah, the reason why, because Kurt Busiek was writing that book at that point, so he figured, put him on Thunderbolts. His reasoning in book was explained that he was a criminal before he was Avenger, so he's like, okay, team up with these people. That's the simple point of it. Yep. Now, of course, they move back to the Avengers Mansion. And it's more like a back-to-basics style of storytelling with actually a couple crossovers. Like, one is Live Free or Die something. It's a mini crossover between Captain America, Iron Man, Avengers, Thor, and Juggernaut. Yeah, it's a very interesting one, this one was. Yep. Let's see. Oh yeah, they also had, like, some fights with Ultron, Kang the Conqueror, which, by the way, his Kang book basically ended his run for the book. This was a very interesting run, to say the least, and you will not believe who took over for him for about 20 issues. Jeff Johns. You're probably thinking, wait, Jeff Johns. This is mid 2000s. Wasn't he over DC writing books like Teen Titans, JSA, and like The Flash? Yes, for some reason he briefly worked at Marvel. And he has since had an interview why he basically stuck with DC even after he did a brief run. Because DC paid more. That's the reason why he left Marvel. And then the book was handed to Chuck Austin, which for his run, he basically just, well, had a very odd era, per se. It wasn't as strange as, let's say, his run for Kenny X-Men. He introduced a new Captain Britain, a female Captain Britain also by Lionheart, and he also had his last few issues serve as a backdoor pilot to a short-lived ongoing series he wrote. For what series? New Invaders. Yes, I'll discuss that in a later video. And then, right after that, this happened. Yep, this happened. Right after that. Disassembled, which caused this book to get relaunched as New Avengers. Also had the ending of Captain America and the Falcon. Actually, Captain America and the Falcon managed to last for 7 more issues before ending. Captain America and Iron Man, these two hit the restart button. And we had the death of Thor. Thanks to that story. Yep. When it comes to this particular volume, it is by far a really good volume to read. Like, Kirk Busick's entire run is collecting a trade series. Like, there was the original print series, like Morgan Quest, which is the Morgan Le Fay stuff. Let's see. There was, if I can find it here. Yes, okay, here we go. Okay, there was Morgan Conquest, which is the first 4 issues, Supreme Justice, Clear and Present Dangers. Oh yeah, they also had crossover with Thunderbolts a couple times. And they also had miniseries. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. They actually were tied into one last crossover. Yes, the crossover being Maximum Security. And this would be the last time that this title would tie into an event for a long time. Next time, just simply Avengers tying into an event will be until Fear itself. Yep, Fear itself. Maximum Security gives you know what the heck that crossover is. It's simply put, apparently alien species are getting tired. We're just so sick and tired of the Earth superheroes interfering in intergalactic affairs. Hey, why don't you, I don't know, stop using Earth as a freaking battleground, then it'll stop interfering. So, they sent a bunch of alien prisoners to the planet. And this is actually trying to be employed to revive Ego the Living Planet. Yes. Ego. And this also involved using the power of the Silver Surfer and Quasar in order to beat the damn thing. It's a quick little mini crossover. I mean, it has some really interesting stuff with it, like the return of the alien species that Charles Xavier go in hiding and prepare the X-Men to fight these creatures. Yeah, they brought back and made this amazing Spider-Man. Now, were any like series ended because of this one? Let me look it up here. For the tie-ins, well, looking at the main event itself, I would say one title ended with this storyline, and that was Bishop the Last X-Man. Aside from that, there is like no other like, let's just say book. Well, I'd say Bishop the Last X-Man and maybe Gambit ended because of this story. And yeah, I think that was just a couple of them. It wasn't as bad as, let's say, with Civil War 2, where like half the titles either ended with the crossover like not long afterwards. A lot of everything else pretty much survived this crossover, no problem. Probably because the title was so good. Now, Jeff Johns' run, if you have a chance to look it up, it's a strange one per se. It also dealt with basically the Red Skull. Yes, the Avengers fighting the Red Skull, which is quite interesting because they very rarely ever fought the Red Skull. No. Like, during Jeff Johns' very brief run for the book, yeah, Red Zone was simply put the stuff with the Red Skull. There's also Search for She-Hulk. This basically brought back the She-Hulk to the series before she went nuts and disassembled. World Trust is simply the Avengers getting recognized by the UN as a UN organization. Lionheart of Avalon, that was the introduction to the female Ironheart, and of course, Once Invader. That being, well, the backdoor power to the short-lived New Avengers title. But if you think about it, this is actually a really good run. I mean, it's 84 issues, lasting like 7 years, which is quite surprising. Like, almost exactly 7 years. Even though technically it started back in 1998 and in 2004. Yes. Though, you have to ponder this question. Okay, what is the most hated triple ditcher crossover for Avengers? Is it 200 or 500? Yeah, and in the case of this period of time, there wasn't that many new members who joined this book at this period of time. No, not really. You're probably thinking, really? Nobody else joined this book? Yeah. Unknown why. Yeah, there was only like maybe 8 people who joined this roster. Like the first 1, 2, 3, 4 people who joined during the Kurt Busick run. You had one joining during Jeff Johns' run, that was Ant-Man, and one who joined toward the end of Chuck Austin's run for the book. Yep. Now, the people he had joined Kurt Busick, aside from Justice and Firestar, he also had Triathlon, Silver Claw, and Jack of Hearts. Yeah. You were thinking, really? So, for this volume, you had roughly... Let's see, roughly 7 people joined this roster. Yes. 7. I'm like, really? Yeah, 7. It's kind of weird, the fact that it's like this. Though, in the case of these members, and since this book ended, I mean, Triathlon has joined Age of Atlas. Silverclaw doesn't really do anything at all. Yeah, she's done very little since this book ended. Jack of Hearts, well, he died in this one. He died in this event here. And then they kind of, in a way, revisited this thanks to Children's Crusade. Though he later got brought back fully in the pages of Marvel's Zombie Supreme, which is a really good miniseries. Ant-Man, of course, brought back thanks to Children's Crusade. But during Kurt Busick's run, I don't think anybody officially died during his run. But in the case of Chuck Austin, yeah, that's indeed true. Yeah, for Chuck Austin's run, yeah, I'd say I'd say within the first issue, he killed off Jack of Hearts. But Kurt Busick, I think he probably did that, want to kill off any characters. But this is basically like Kurt Busick, the great run that this is. It's like, this is the run people tend to think of when people think of Avengers. Jeff Johns is, well, typical Jeff Johns, where he basically makes it a little more interesting, per se. I've never come across a bad book by him. Now, if you think of the Chuck Austin stuff, like, despite how brief this run was, which think of issues 70, 76 to about 84, it's not very long of a run, but he at least did something interesting with this book. Yep. But in case you're curious, still, am I going to cover anything else related to Avengers for the main series, for its comic history? No. I announced in my last video, like, the stuff that came after this, I'm not going to cover here. Some of you are thinking, is it too good? You just simply don't want to? Because I already covered this area already. In comic history. I've covered all 4 volumes of New Avengers. Avengers volumes 4, 5, up until basically the most recent book. I've covered Dark Avengers, Mighty Avengers. All these books, all covered, so I'm not going to cover them for the comic history. Seeing Avengers, I've covered both from comic history, and I've also covered in the trade reviews. Yes. But if you're thinking, like, what group are we going to cover next? Well, there's a few spin-offs I want to cover first. The first one I want to cover is a spin-off that started back in the 70s Avengers, The Invaders. Yes, I'm going to do this one first for the very next episode, which will be episode 66. For 67, discussing Avengers West Coast. Yes, Avengers West Coast. They'll also briefly discuss that one, Avengers Solo, which is a spin-off book of that one, which featured Hawkeye. And that'll be 67, of course. I'd say for 68, I'll probably cover, like, probably the Avengers Initiative / Avengers Academy series, cover those 2 ones. And I'll probably have one other video I'll probably cover, like, maybe some other. I'll probably cover some other Avengers spin-offs, but not all of them per se. I just mainly want to cover Invaders, Avengers West Coast, and I think that might be it for the ones I want to cover. Yeah, just these two. And then, like, you're probably thinking, what series I'll cover next? Well, I'll probably cover in comic history. One series that actually come back recently, I'm thinking of covering, like, New Mutants. But one I really want to do before I do Mutants, after I do Avengers West Coast, I'll talk about Jack the King Kirby. This one, gonna be very interesting to talk about this one. Yep. But in the case of videos today, this might be the last one for a bit per se. I might have one more video today because I'm going to be doing a rewatch of Fairy Tail. Yes, Fairy Tail. That'll be soon. Okay? See you next video.